And welcome to the Weather World. We're here at KCRA Studio A, and we're going to talk a little bit about the weather. We're going to start answering some questions. Have some great questions. We're going to talk about why mountains are so cold. We're also going to talk about hail and the size of hail, and some other great things we're going to discover as we go through our Weather World here today. But let's start things off by taking a look at what's going on outside right now. You can see our sky cameras behind me. I can see some blue skies, but I also see some gray skies, and so we're going to start out with that as we take a look at our Rancho Cordova sky camera. This is off of sunrise, and what's interesting about this morning, you may have woken up this morning and seen the cloud cover. We have some low cloud cover. That's the marine layer that made its way in, and so these low clouds that are sitting here in the valley aren't everywhere. Stay right here. I'm going to change this image and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So let's look downtown as we move from image to image there. Boop, there we go. So Rancho Cordova, we have overcast skies, while Sacramento, we have beautiful blue skies right now. And so temperatures are going to be different because there's a difference in the sunshine and how it's heating up the ground right now. So Sacramento should be running a little bit warmer because we have the sun than Rancho Cordova, which is going to be a little bit cooler because of the cloud cover. So right now, Sacramento's 54 degrees out at the Executive Airport. Stockton's 56, as well as Modesto. And Lake Tahoe, currently 44 degrees. And again, Stockton, Modesto, downtown Sacramento, and Lake Tahoe all have fairly sunny skies right now. But what's going on with our weather pattern? What changes do we have? Well, starting off, we're taking a look at this low cloud cover, and so you can kind of see it here. It's showing up a little bit. This is where we have the marine layer, and this is because we have that air coming in off the coast of California, that cool air, and as it makes its way into the valley, we get condensation and we get the low clouds, and you can see it stretching from the Rancho Cordova area here off towards Placerville, Auburn, those areas into the foothills. The lower foothills are dealing with the low cloud cover this morning because of that marine layer. But what does it look like as we zoom things out? Now, if we zoom things out, you can see we have some weather systems that we're talking about. Now, we mentioned again, when we have areas of low pressure, that's what we're looking for. So we're going to try to find areas of low pressure from this morning and where they are. Well, the ones that really kind of stand out right now, I have some cloud cover here. Usually we associate clouds with areas of low pressure. That's the case here, as we have an area of low pressure that's setting itself up over Colorado and northern New Mexico right now. So the center of it, again, they go counterclockwise. Areas of high pressure, they spin clockwise. Areas of low pressure spin counterclockwise. So we're looking for areas where the clouds have a little bit of a counterclockwise spin to them. Another area I'd look, lots of cloud cover up here. And guess what? The clouds are spinning counterclockwise. So there's going to be an area of low pressure here. There's one more, but it's not on this side of me. It's actually behind me. And this really shows up quite well. Look at this. This is a nice comma-shaped cloud. This is an area of low pressure right in there. And it's spinning counterclockwise. So we have three areas of low pressure that really stand out right now. Again, this one that's over the Four Corners area, this one that's just up there over northern Idaho, and then the one that's behind me out here in the eastern Pacific spinning around. So we found three areas of low pressure, and again, as a meteorologist, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for areas of low pressure and also some high pressure, but low pressure is usually where the action is, and that's what we're going to be talking about coming up. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the questions that we've had sent in so far as we take our long walk across the studio over here. So, question number one for today is from Thomas. And Thomas has the question of, why are mountains so cold? That's interesting because we see our sky camera up at Lake Tahoe and there's lots of snow up there. And you look at our sky cameras down here in the valley and there's no snow. So what's the difference? Well, it all has to do with elevation and pressure. We've been all under a lot of pressure lately, but let's go ahead and talk about pressure and the effect that it has on temperature and how they're actually related. So we're going to start off over here and take a look at what's going on with our weather graphics. And I've got my weather wall. I'm going to sit on my weather bubble here, and we're going to take a tour. So here we have the air, and we have a column of air that's set up right here next to me. This is a column of air that we've kind of magnified, and so we can actually see the little molecules that make up the air. And the one thing you may notice here is at the base of this column of air, the molecules are all tightly packed. And as we go up in elevation, they become more loosely packed. Well, temperature and pressure, they go along together. So at the surface where these molecules are all tightly packed, the temperature here at the surface is 60 degrees. And again, there's that relationship between temperature and pressure. And as a meteorologist, we measure pressure Well, one of the ways we measure pressure, and the way that I like to measure pressure, is in millibars. And all this is a number to describe how much pressure, how much those air molecules are tightly packed. And the pressure at the surface here is 1,313 millibars at the base of this. And so you can see over here we have our 60-degree temperature, and the pressure is at 1313, or 1,313 millibars. Now let's go ahead and take a ride and go up in elevation a little bit. In fact, we're going to take a ride up to about 5,000 feet. Now as we go up the mountain, you can see that the amount of air starts to thin out a little bit. So all the little molecules that make up the air, they become a little bit more sparse. And as that happens, the pressure starts to decrease. And so there's not as much pressure as what we saw at the surface. And so the pressure drops down to now 843 millibars. And look what happens to the temperature. These two are proportionals, what's it called. You have temperature and pressure, and they move along in the same direction. So as we lose pressure, as there's less pressure, we lose temperature. So it's a little bit colder. The temperature drops. It's at 41 degrees, and I can kind of feel it at this elevation, but we're going to take it up even higher because we have a mountain to climb. Let's go up in elevation to about 10,000 feet. Some of the top peaks, again, through the Central Sierra, about that elevation. If you go south, it's a little bit more, but around here you can see the air is pretty thin. The molecules are widely spaced apart. And so what does that mean for our pressure and our temperature? Well, if we don't have those little water or those air molecules to be pushing on each other, the pressure is going to be decreasing. At 10,000 feet, we have a pressure of about 697 millibars. And what's going on with the temperature? Well, the temperature, it's a chilly 23 degrees. Well, what's changed? The only thing that's changed is our altitude. As we've gone up, there's been less air, there's been less pressure, and the temperature has dropped. So let's go ahead and drop ourselves, get back down to some warmer temperatures down at the base, at the surface here, where it's 60 degrees. Again, temperature hasn't changed at the surface. The only thing that's changed is we've changed. As we've gone up and gone down, we've seen those temperatures decrease and pressures decrease, and then those temperatures warm and the pressures increase as we drop back down toward the surface. So as we fly up and down, there's a big difference in temperature. Same thing if you're in a plane flying around, you're going to notice it's much colder the higher you go, or even in your favorite balloon as you're floating around, you'll notice that as well. Let's go ahead now and take a look at a little demonstration here and see if we can work this out. I have some props. And what we have here, this is a canister that's used to blow compressed air, and it shoots that air out and cleans off computers and things like that, helps it clean things out without you actually touching it. So what we're going to do is I have this and I have this. This is actually a thermometer. It's an infrared thermometer. And if I take this as a little laser, so I can see where it's pointing, and you see the little red dot there? That red dot is telling me that the temperature at that location on this canister is 71 degrees. And that's room temperature right now. That's what the temperature is here in the studio. It's about 71 degrees. So what happens when I release some of the pressure? So I'm going to go ahead and push on this, and that's going to make a sound of air that's going to come whooshing out. And so what's going to happen inside the canister is we're going to have less air as that air escapes. And we're going to see what it does to the temperature if we have less air in there. So I'm releasing the air, releasing the air, releasing the air, a little bit more, a little bit more. Let's see what the temperature is here. Right now, ooh, it's 66 degrees. I don't know if we can see that right there. So we went from 71 down to, well, now it's down to 64. And so 71 degrees to 64. And now what happens is the air inside of the can starts to adjust. It should get warmer and take on the temperature of the surrounding air that's outside of the can too. But you can see as I push that nozzle down, the temperature drop. Let's see if we can get it to go down a little bit more. Letting out more now, 64, 63, 62, 61. Look at those temperatures drop. Again, as we release the air, there's less pressure inside. And now we're down to 55, 56 degrees, now it's starting to warm back up again. So there's a definite relationship between pressure, the pressure inside the can, and then when we release it, there's less pressure, and so the temperature starts to drop. And so as the pressure drops, so does the temperature, and that's why mountains are so much colder than what we have here on the valley floor. And so hopefully that answers your question. Again, the higher you go, the colder it gets. That's the simple thing that as a meteorologist you need to remember. The higher you go, the colder it gets. Usually, you have to throw that in there too, because it's not always the case. So let's go on now. Second question. So that was Thomas, who's 8 years old, by the way. Great question, Thomas. Second question comes from Karen, and she wants to know what causes the different size hail that happen. Now, here in California, yeah, we do have different size hail. We go from just little tiny little pebbles of hail up to pea-size hail, and sometimes we get even bigger hail. That's about the size of marbles or so. But that usually is about the extent of the hail. But the record hailstone here in California is actually 3 inches. And the reason it got so big is sometimes those hailstones, they stick together and they can make up bigger hailstones. And that's what happened in this case too, is you have the hail that kind of sticks itself together and makes for a big hailstone. So let's talk a little bit about the process of making hail. We're going to go over here to the whiteboard and do some doodling. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a cloud. And not just any cloud. We need to have a nice cumulus cloud. Now, why would we need a cumulus cloud? Well, because a cumulus cloud is developed from air that's rising. We need to have air that's going up. So here we have the base of the cloud, which should be a little bit more level right here. And then we have all of this that starts popping up here. And let's make this a nice thunderstorm here. So here's my cloud, and what creates the cloud is strong updrafts. Those winds are being drawn up. Another feature that you need to have when you're talking about hail is not only do you need to have the strong updrafts, but you also have to have another thing that's called wind shear. And so what that is you have wind blowing at different speeds at different elevations. So in this case, we have winds that are blowing stronger at the top of the cloud, and they're blowing weaker at the bottom of the cloud. So that gives it a component where the air, as it's coming up, it goes up, but it also will start it spinning too as it goes up. And this creates a nice strong updraft where the air is being blown up. Now our cloud here, what we have is it's made up of water droplets. And so you have all these little water droplets that are down here forming, because you get the condensation that occurs here at the base of the cloud. And these little water droplets, they take a ride. They got an elevator ride here with this nice strong column of air that's moving up, this current that's flowing up. As it goes up, these little water droplets, what are they doing? Well, some of them are starting to freeze. They become what's called supercooled water droplets. You have a liquid water droplet that's in an environment, or its surroundings are actually below freezing. And so it doesn't take much. If it's to touch anything, if it touches any kind of little hygroscopic particle, any little other raindrop out there, they start to freeze. And so you get the formation of these ice balls. And this is the formation of hail inside this cloud as these little droplets bump into each other and start to go through the different layers of this cloud. And they get bigger and bigger. The higher they go, the more they're bumping into things, and the bigger they go. And they form layers of ice and, clear water droplets that are here. And so as you go up higher and higher, you get these kind of an onion look to it, these layers of ice that form as the hailstone continues to get pushed up through this cloud. And the trick here is, as the cloud, the higher it goes, as this hailstone goes up, and the stronger the winds are, then the bigger the hailstone is going to get. And so that's what we need to have. We need to have a really strong wind that allows these little droplets of water to blow up through the cloud. And they're different sized droplets of water, so they're kind of bumping into each other as they go, and they're creating this ice ball. And you get these layers of ice that start to form around it, and you get a hailstone. And the stronger the wind, the higher it goes, the longer it's in the cloud, and the bigger the hailstone can get. Now the problem is once this hailstone gets so big, that wind can't hold it up anymore, and what is it going to do? It's going to fall. It's going to fall back down through the cloud and come down in the form of hail. So to answer the question, it just takes different strengths of wind, really. Ultimately is what it comes down to, is you need to have different strengths of wind. They create different size hailstones. So let's go ahead and demonstrate what this means. So here I have 2 potential hailstones. I've got a ping pong ball and I've got a golf ball. And then I have a source of wind. That's my wife's hairdryer. It's a purple one. It's kind of cool looking, but I've commandeered it for today and she allowed me. I did get permission. Never do this without permission from your parents or your wife. So we have it off right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on low. It is kind of loud, so I'm gonna have to talk a little bit more. But what I want to do is I want to take this, and get it to float. There we go. So this is just demonstrating how air, we have that current of air, can keep a hailstone up in the cloud. And what happens when that wind is stronger? Well, let's see. Let's turn it up to high, because it's in the low setting. Oh my. So what's happening to that hailstone the stronger the wind? Well, it's going to go up higher, and it's going to be able to bump into more hailstones and other droplets and things like that and get bigger. So the stronger the wind, the bigger the hailstone. Now, what happens when we get ourselves a nice big hailstone? Put it on here. Is this wind, the small wind, going to be able to get this up in the air? No, not very high at all. You can see it's just barely floating over top of this. And even when I put it on high, it's still not going very high because it weighs so much. So once a hailstone gets to a certain weight that the wind can't keep it up anymore, what happens? It falls down to the earth. And so that's what happens inside of a thunderstorm. And usually, hailstones are associated with thunderstorms because thunderstorms have strong winds. And it's those strong winds that create the hail. And also it's the hail then in that turn also helps to create the lightning. But that's a question for another time. We have one more question that I want to cover. Let's see here. This one comes from Kate. And Kate is curious about the Earth and how fast the Earth rotates. And so that's something that's really relatively speaking. Let's go back over to the weather wall. Let's talk about this. I think we can, do we have it? There it is, there's the Earth, and it's spinning, floating around. So you can see that we're on the Earth, obviously, that's where we are right now. And the Earth is spinning, and so on the surface of the Earth, we are spinning around, and you can see that, oh, there I go, faded in. We are moving around the center of the Earth, the axis of the Earth, at a certain rate. Well, how fast is that? Well, if that's what you're talking about, we're flying around on the Earth at about 10,000 miles per hour. And what's interesting about that is the circumference of the Earth, it's a little over 24,000 miles. It's actually closer to 25, but for our purposes, we're going to say it's around 24,000 miles. How many hours are in the day? Well, there's 24 hours in the day. And so if you divide that up, that actually adds up to 10,000 miles per hour, because there's 24 hours in the day. And so we've got the miles per hour. It's actually 1,000 miles, isn't it? Didn't change that. So Earth revolves around the sun. And as the Earth revolves around the sun, it's traveling at about 67,000 miles per hour. And then if we take it out a little bit farther in our galaxy, what are we doing? Oh yeah, we're out on one of the outer bands of the galaxy in the Milky Way, and we're traveling around the center of the Milky Way about 490,000 miles per hour. And so we're traveling at 1,000 miles per hour on the Earth. We're traveling at 67,000 miles per hour around the sun, and we're traveling 490,000 miles per hour in the Milky Way galaxy. So hopefully that answers your question. Those are the numbers that we work with. So those are some great questions. I appreciate the questions that you come up with, and that gets me thinking and trying to answer some of those questions. Next time, tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Earth and the Moon and the relationship that they have with temperature. And that question comes from Margaret. Beverly, she wants to know about snow and what's going on with this formation of snow. And then we have a great question from Melina that we're going to talk about. She's from Penn Valley, and I'm looking forward to answering her question as well. So if you have a question, what do? Well, you're going to go ahead and you can ask that question in the comments on the Facebook page, or you can email me at deverdorn@hearst.com, and I will try to get in touch with you and answering those questions. Thanks so much for joining me today, and make sure you keep questioning. Have a great day.